The sport of off-road racing is full of incredible stories, wild characters, legends, and even villains. We cover it all on offroadracer.com, but there's only so much we can put down in an article. Sometimes we have to dig a little deeper, and that means sitting down with some of our industry's most influential characters and hitting record. Welcome to the Off-Road Racer podcast, a Mad Media production, made exclusively for offroadracer.com. Each month, we'll go beyond the dirt into the homes, shops, and lives of the most interesting and game-changing icons of our sport. You'll hear about their history, success, failure, and everything in between as we pull back the curtain and reveal the stories of their lives. I'm your host, Matt Martelli, and this is the Off-Road Racer podcast. I'm Matt Martelli. This is the Off-Road Racer podcast, and I'm here with Johnny Campbell. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here. Excited. I love your podcast, by the way. And we're looking. We got so many things going on right now, so it's exciting times.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like we were just talking in the lobby about, you're preparing some guys for Dakar, and you're right at the kind of end stage of that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the Dakar Rally is coming up. It's January 5th through the 20th this year, or maybe 19th. But so I've been out with the HRC team. We've been doing kind of final checks, final tests, and doing a little training. Got the guys kind of like on a taper down, and got to be. We're in that bubble, that window right before the race. So it's like these guys, they want to get out there, they want to train, but they also got to be smart.
Yeah, because you were saying earlier, some of the KTM guys who you should be competing against got injured, broken legs, right?
Yeah, I had heard that Kevin Benavides got hurt, and now Matthias Wagner, and pretty severe injuries. So it's like they're going to be out. So that's two more spots for somebody else, I guess.
Yeah, talk about a heartbreaker. I mean, you basically you're racing all year. And yeah, you're winning races and you're competing and everything, but the whole point of that style of rally raid is to go to Dakar and do well.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, their whole window or their whole career is based around this one event. They do race like world rally and stuff, and there's 4 or 5 of those throughout the year, depending on the year. But really, it's just like these 2 weeks in January. That's what matters.
Sure. And so who are you preparing for this year's race?
So kind of under my wing is like, of course, Ricky Brabec. He's been on the team for quite a while now, and a seasoned veteran and the 2020 winner, first American to ever win the thing. So super, super cool. And so he's, I enjoy Ricky. We always spend a lot of time together and stuff throughout the year and stuff. And then new recruit for Honda HRC is Skylar Howes. So been working with those 2 guys, and exciting to have another American on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that, you and I talk about it, and like it blows me away that it's not a bigger deal than it was when Brabec won Dakar. I mean, first American to do it. Of course, he's, mentored by you, which kind of, to me, makes it even cooler because it wasn't like some, accidental thing. You know what I mean? There was a lot of effort and a lot of work put into Brabec and that win. And, it's like you come back to America and it's like, everybody's like, what have you been doing? Oh, you only just won the gnarliest, off-road bike race in the entire planet. You know what I mean? It's like there should be a parade in Washington, for the Americans when they come back for that.
Yeah, Dakar's always been it's been a global event. But North America rally has always been a little distant, a little foreign. And just up until, the last several years, and like when Ricky won, that has been gaining popularity, but still, even in our industry, enthusiasts don't really understand the game.
Sure.
And so that's what is kind of tricky. They watch it on TV or watch it on the internet or whatever, and they're like, whoa, how come they're doing this or that? Well, rally racing is not it's different than off-road racing,
Sure.
So it encompasses a lot of variables and the navigation and the instruments they have to use and the rules. I mean, like this year they have what they call a chrono stage, and it's really incredible. It's kind of a pull away from the old years, like in the 80s and stuff, where they used to have these bivouacs where the guys just rode all day. And it wasn't like they got to the end of the stage. It's like whatever bivouac they got to, because they'll have several, that's where they have to spend the night, and then get up the next day and then they ride again. And it's where like a marathon is like they have a finished point and that's a stage. And then they have, the second stage. And even though, they get to sleep and rest and stuff, it's like they have no assistance. So there's no like re-preparing the bike. Maybe you broke something during that stage. Well, you're going to have to get that back the next stage,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of rules and technical things that are just different than off-road racing here in America.
Yeah. What I like about it is like, I think, there's this evolution that you go through as a racer where, you begin to learn off-road racing, whether it's on a bike or a car. And then you kind of get to the point where you kind of master it and you're like, okay, I got it. And so then you can go faster, right? You can be better. But what the rally format offers is like a way to challenge your intellect, your brain, like, and really, have to think a lot more than just, how we do it here in America. We're like, hey, there's a GPS line, press the pedal and let's go as fast as we can. So it's pretty impressive. It's an impressive form of motorsport. And then when you add on the amount of days that you're doing it, I mean, it's this incredible marathon. And for the bike guys, it's even gnarlier. Like we were talking earlier, like I chased Dakar for half of it when they first went to Saudi. And mind you, we're just driving along pavement mostly, right? And by the end of every day, I was waxed. I was like, man, all I wanted to do is go to bed. When you extrapolate that on, what it takes to do this in a four-wheel drive vehicle, and then the physical challenge of doing it on bikes. I mean, you and I talk about this a lot about how it's weird that the bike athletes aren't more celebrated than they are because of, it's requires so much more mental and physical capacity than racing in a car does.
Yeah, it's the exposure also. It's like you're not strapped in, you don't have that cage. You have, and in say rally, it's like, the big difference is like you're texting and driving. You're you're looking at your road book, you're looking at your instruments and going fast and trying to find your way through the desert because you hadn't pre-run. There is no pre-running. You don't have course markers because there is none. And so that whole element, and ride fast through the desert and read the terrain over terrain you haven't been on or pre-ran. I mean, all those things. And then you add in the element of going day after day after day after day, for over 2 weeks. And then you could kind of see where we're going. It's like how gnarly it is for a bike guy, not only to race here in off-road racing, but you elevate it when you go try to race a rally or Dakar.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is like here we have rougher courses. They're faster. It's like very intense for a shorter amount of time, right? Or a short period of time. But then you get over there and it's like all of a sudden the strategy is different because you're like, okay, we got to do a marathon every day. How do we stay, physically and mentally in the game? And it's really incredible. I don't think people understand it enough and give it enough credit. And, my hope is that by, Brabec winning and AJ Jones and Casey Curry, that, it becomes this thing where we look at it and we go, oh yeah, we're in it, and now I'm really excited about not just the bike guys, but also, we've got some killers over there in UTV with AJ Jones, of course, Mitch Guthrie Jr., and Seth Quintero, and they're just going to get better. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and we also want to put a shout out to Sarah Price too.
That's right.
She's going over there first time. She's been working really hard with her navigation with Jimmy Lewis, and just putting in the time. I mean, I don't see anybody working harder than she is right now. And I think she's the hungriest, really.
It's funny, and I'll go into there's two parts to this. Is obviously Brabec and her dating, right?
Yeah.
So kind of funny because if they end up getting married and have a kid, that's going to be the super mutant off-road kid, right?
Yeah.
Or multiple kids, man. So maybe there's a plan there. But no, I mean, look, she doesn't have a big factory backing. She's been hustling and putting this all together on her own. So, it's really cool to see her, do that and to manifest that. And, we're friends. I'm also a fan, and we're going to be cheering her on.
Yeah, really exciting. Yeah, we went to her going away party or her big party the other day, and it was neat to see all the support and stuff she was getting there. And it's exciting. I mean, it's just a great buzz in the off-road community, and Sarah's awesome. So want to see her do really good.
Yeah, it's funny because with all these Americans going over and also the success that we've had in the recent years, I mean, I really think that it's time for Team America. I really think that it's time that, the OEMs, need to step up and start, looking at how do we properly fund teams and go over there and represent America. I mean, you guys have been doing it with bikes for a while. That hasn't gone unnoticed, but I think it's time to do that in four-wheel vehicles and to really show them the level of talent that we have here, because I don't see any other country that has the amount of youth in bikes, the amount of youth in four-wheel vehicles that we have. So, I think it's time we got to, grab these corporations and organize them and go, okay, it's time to go over there and do some real damage, and claim some stuff, put the American flag down in a few of those tunes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And, you got to hand it to those rally guys, though, that, on the four-wheel side, too, they're incredible drivers. You have, they got a lot of talent and a lot of experience doing that. But we have such a huge culture of off-road racing here. And I put our drivers up against theirs, no problem. It's look at the past history. Robbie's been there, and he's really gone in as hard as he could and stuff. And then, but yeah, if we had some manufacturer backing with those guys, and those girls would be really strong, Yeah,
it'd be a game changer.
Yeah.
Well, talk about your experience in Dakar, because you've had obviously this massive career in racing, 11-time Baja 1000 champion. How many times Baja 500? Five.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know that anybody's going to ever catch up to your record, right? And then also, you had the opportunity to go over and race in Dakar. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to go to Dakar the first time in Africa, so I did the actual Paris to Dakar from the Eiffel Tower all the way to the beach in, Lac Rose in Senegal, and, a 20-day race, and your rest day is at day 10, and you don't have, it was really raw then. I mean, there wasn't the media, there wasn't the easy access of anything, communications or whatever. And, I was really fortunate to build a relationship with a gentleman named Franco Aturbis, and he came over. He's all the plastic and stuff for the bikes.
Yeah, of course, Aturbis.
Yeah. So he's a huge enthusiast, very passionate man. Met him in the early 90s, and he made a way for me to get over there that year in 2001 and do that. And so I didn't have Honda factory backing back then, and Honda wasn't involved in Dakar at that point. They came in the 80s and they dominated, for a few years, and then they kind of pulled out, and then it was like, okay, anybody's deal. And then they didn't reconnect with the Dakar until 2012. We fielded a small effort out of my shop with Quinn Cody, and we built him a bike and stuff. And we were buying space on a truck to help us out and get there. And then we got back from that 12 one, and that was also the year I went with Robbie and the Hummer. And then Japan wanted to see our bike, so bike came back from Dakar, and we shipped it to Japan. They dissected it, and then in 13 we came back with a full factory HRC effort. And so my first experience was 2001 at the Dakar, right? And then finished 8th overall bike and first privateer. So that was a noteworthy accomplishment for myself. And then came back. I was able to ride with HRC in 2013 when we had our first full factory effort there. But I had stopped racing at that point, full time. I was just racing for fun, running my team. And so I went back there, rode that event as kind of like the support rider to the other guys and part of the development team. And so 2013 was really the kickoff for HRC. And now we're 10 years, later, and I've been on the forefront of the machine development with that. So I've actually been to the Dakar like 13 times now.
Right.
So, but yeah, racing wise, I raced physically twice on a bike. And then I've done it twice as a navigator for Robbie, 2012 and then 2015.
Nice. Yeah, it's weird. This is one of the things that I've noticed about champions, right? So like you achieve a certain level of, accomplishments, right? And people think I think most people think oh, you're good, right? Like that's it, right? You're done. And that's not the case, right? You just look for something else. You're like, oh, I did this. Well, maybe I can do this, right? And so in the world of off-road racing, it's very interesting because we have obviously all of our domestic racing in the U.S. and Baja, and you stack those winnings, but at some point, Dakar is always on everybody's mind, and they look at it and they're like, man, it'd sure be nice to go ahead and win one there and just prove to that, side of the world that, we're as badass as they are, right? So, you didn't like you were just explaining, you got to go there, but you got to go under the kind of privateer, non-factory back team, which it's not impossible to win it, but the cards are stacked against you, right? Like it's pretty, you're competing against a lot of different variables that, allow the factories to dominate, right? So with that being said, you go and as you just explained, we're part of this creating the win, right? For America, for Honda, for, Brabec. I mean, what did that feel like for you?
It's one of the hugest accomplishments of my career, really. I won a lot in Baja. My goal during my career was to be the best in Baja, and I had a nice lengthy career. And once I accomplished, winning 11, that was eclipsing Rossler's 10 on a bike, and I was fulfilled in that position, And at that point, it was like, okay, now what do I do? Because once you achieve your goal, you got to make more goals, and you got to, keep going and keep working. That's why we're here to work and fulfill those things. So, yeah, I've been able to, fortunately in my career, I was able to learn a lot from my mentor, Bruce Ogilvie, the late Bruce Ogilvie. Taught me racecraft, taught me, how to set up bikes, how to test, develop. And so that's where my path has been. It's like, I thought about going four-wheel racing right after I finished my bike goals, but I looked at it and I go, wow, I have all this experience. I know Baja really well. but what else? I have other skills, and so that's when I started my team, and I started doing that. And then Honda R&D started, they needed my help and assistance as well. And that's been gaining over the years too. So we've been doing a lot of testing.
Like, that's, to me, very admirable, is like, you spend a career, learning racecraft and learning all these things. And then, a lot of guys generally don't pass it on. Like, maybe you get lucky and they have a son or daughter and they pass it on to him, which you're also doing too. But like, when you look at these, these young men that you've mentored and you mentored to the point where, like, I'm not taking anything against Brabec. He had to do the work, right?
Oh yeah.
But without the knowledge base, I mean, you're just over there riding around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty, like, there isn't any, I don't think there's any other motorsport that's as drastic as off-road racing, and in particular as Dakar. It's like, go figure it out. Like, there is no figuring it out. You're going to get lost,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
literally lost in the middle of one of the biggest deserts in the world. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty incredible, like, metaphor for, like, okay, are you prepared? Are you not prepared? Or, where did the knowledge base come from? So, that I think is very admirable, and what you're doing now, and teaching this racecraft that you acquired.
Attention Off-Road Nation. The Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship comes roaring through Parker, Vegas, and Barstow in 2024. It's three of the most prestigious and competitive off-road races in the sport. It all starts with the return of the Parker 400 in beautiful Arizona, January 10th through the 14th. Then it's the biggest, baddest, most grueling off-road race on the planet. The BF Goodrich Tires Mint 400 comes roaring back into Sin City, Las Vegas, March 6th through the 10th. And finally, the climactic conclusion of the Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship, the California 300, returns to Barstow, October 2nd through the 6th. Visit unlimitedoffroadracing.com for complete details. The 2024 Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship is here.
Yeah, and that's been a really, one of my passions also is to share that knowledge that I learned, passing it on to the next generation, raising up racers, Kendall Normans, Colton Udalls, Brabec, now Preston, and it's neat to see where those guys land in their accomplishments. And, I feel pretty satisfied with that, so it's pretty fun. And I know where my path is. I know what I'm doing,
Yeah. And, like, that's another thing too, is, like, let's talk about Preston for a minute. He just won the California 300, which that was his longest race that he's raced in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Preston, he's was on a path on a mini bike. He liked motocross, did motocross, and then, slowly got more into off-road racing, and then, became fascinated with the desert as I did, and so he, started racing some hare and hounds, and then now it's, now he's on to, hey, I want to do some more, long distance races and stuff like California 300, the Mint 400, things like this. And so he's on that path, and I think his ultimate trajectory will probably be into rallies.
Yeah. I mean, what's that like for you as the dad, right? It's like, I mean, your kid can grow up, and you were like a no pressure dad, right? So that was one of the things, is like, I see this happen with a lot of parents or a lot of father-son relationships, where it's like, you either the pressure dad where you're hammering them into trying to like something you like, or you're the no pressure dad and you're like, if it works out, then great. If not, whatever, he can be great at golf. But how glad are you that he didn't choose golf, right?
Well, maybe there's a little more money in golf than off-road racing, but it's like, and safer,
Sure.
But it's fun because we're able to share our day-to-day passion of off-road racing together. And he's done a really good job of absorbing a lot of knowledge along the way too. So his trajectory of being able to evaluate and test and develop and race is pretty exciting for me. Although it's still, it's kind of scary.
Sure.
He did have a big get off a year and a half ago and fractured T6 really bad. And now he works so hard and he's so passionate about it that he came back within a year and he was able to be on the bike for over 4 hours at California 300 and, take the overall. Back that up by gaining a gold medal and second in his division at the ISD in Argentina, and then last week he just finished one of the gnarliest enduros we have in North America, the Ducati Enduro.
Yeah, I saw that. That's cool.
Finished second overall there. So he's done a remarkable job.
Yeah, you and I were talking about the danger and like how, the older you get, the more you're like, man, I did that, because and also you were racing your era of when you were racing. I mean, it was a pretty dangerous era. We didn't have all the tools, the safety tools that we implement now.
Yeah, for sure. It's like we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have SATCOMs. We didn't have
tracking.
There was no GPS. There was none of that, no Starlink, no social media. It was like once you went pre-running and you left your guy at the truck and said, meet me at Catavina at 5:00. He just went there and waited. And if you didn't show up at 5:00, he was told to wait, and maybe you showed up around 8:00 at night because you had some problems, but there was no communications and,
right.
You could have been knocked out there and just whatever. But, but that's the thing is like, we sign up for it. Maybe we don't realize 100% of the, what can happen and stuff. We sign up because we're passionate about it and we want to race, but it's like, okay, what happens when something happens, then you learn and then you learn how risky it is. And like, as the older I get and experience more and more things, you're going, man, I didn't even think about that when I was doing that, because you can't, you got to be fully focused on what you're doing. And that's where these guys 20 something to 30 something years old on bikes are, they're like, it's go time. And they're not thinking about the things that could potentially bite you.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, was there a point in your career where you kind of, got into that level, that kind of Zen moment where you're like, wow, I could do this and I love this and I'm good at it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I look back and my pinnacle years were from 28 to 32 years old. I mean, it was like, I felt like I was almost invincible. And I have a good head, like, as far as like things can happen and, crashing and getting hurt and hurt bad and everything. But man, those pinnacle years around 30 years old, I felt so good on the bike and what we were doing. It was like, and still to this day, it's like in those moments, in those years, it was like, I still feel like I was really good at that. And I don't feel like I've been as good at anything since my age and physical ability and eyesight and everything, is depleted. So.
No, totally. I mean, there is that, for every athlete, there's that window, right? And like, when you look at certain sports that are super demanding, and like, I always use MMA as an example because you can see it in these guys. You're like, you need to stop, right? Because you're not as quick as the guy that you're fighting. And, all your attributes start fading away. And on a bike, that's very serious because, again, it's like you have to, in order to win, you're going at such a gnarly pace that, the consequences of one small mistake, end up in physical damage to you,
Yeah, big time. And that was one thing that, once I accomplished my goals, I was 30 years old. So it was kind of like, I had already been thinking about it for a couple years. And then all these 20-year-old kids were coming up and either passing me or bumping my rear wheel or, I'm like, oh man, I don't really want to go any faster.
Sure.
So I listened to that small voice that was like, hey, you need to back off or, the potential of getting hurt is greater because your mind starts thinking that way.
Did the death of Danny Hamill have an effect on you in your career?
Absolutely. The impact of a peer, especially the best there was. And I think everybody in my group would attest to that. Danny was phenomenally talented. And when he passed away and had that accident, it's like, oh, we're really vulnerable. We're riding in an environment that's really uncontrolled. But it also kind of relate that back to life, So I had to look at it like, well, I can be driving up the 405 to Honda and car accident and die, So I put it in perspective of really trusting my faith that, I was passionate about this and God's going to bless this, or not. And so, but I was focused on that, and because I knew that when your time was up, it was up,
Yeah.
So that's the mentality you have to go with, and you got to keep focused.
Yeah. I mean, you can't live in fear, you know?
Not at all.
But that was such a big moment in off-road racing. I remember it when I was a kid, because in that era, I feel like the bike racers were celebrated as the four-wheel drive guys, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I wanted when you looked at the sport is like it was, hey, who do you want to be like? And there were two guys. It was Danny and it was Ivan, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else was like kind of inconsequential and like
Sure.
to me, in the beginning, Danny was like cooler, right? I was like, because he was doing something gnarlier. Like bikes are ultimately the coolest thing, right? Like I want to look like Steve McQueen and win races, right? But later on, obviously the marketing behind Ivan, that became more of an Ivan thing, right?
For sure.
But that's really cool,
Racing against your dad is something that 90% of the racers in the world will never get.
I've accomplished everything I wanted to do, and now he's just like taking the reins. I want to be remembered for being a huge part of short course, not just racing, keeping it alive, helping it grow. If it comes down to the last weekend and I'm in it, the boys better watch out.
There are other things, for you, what do you feel like was your biggest career highlight?
I thoroughly enjoyed winning the Baja 2000 in the year 2000 because the amount of work and the distance and the length of the race, it just was a culmination of so many things, having the right volunteers, the right mentor, the right coordinator, pre-running for, so long and just having just the time of your life. And when you work hard, that's when it's worth it, right?
Sure.
I mean, if you don't have to work for something, then the value in your mind is less. So putting that work in was important. So going there, finishing the Paris to Dakar in 2001, and also winning my 11th was really big, And then I have to say, kind of in the more modern era would be, helping Brabec win the Dakar.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a resume.
Yeah.
And what's cool too is like, obviously you and I are friends and we've asked you to help us with our series and help shape the future of bike racing in the desert. I mean, it's cool because it's not just your knowledge base, but how passionate you are about that. I mean, talk about the future. I mean, the we're at kind of a tipping point, whatever you want to call it, where we've on our side we recognize the value of bike racing and think it's very important for our culture. Because if you can't afford a UTV or another vehicle, it's like you can go buy a bike and come race with us. And that's how I got in. That's how you got in. So tons and tons of people got into off-road racing. But also like just shaping it so it's sustainable in the future.
Yeah, I have where I'm at right now in my career, feeling that, I need to put time into this. I need to invest, as does, a few of us. I work with Scott Harden as well, and on the Handstands 100, and that's all about celebrating, the history and heritage and the future of desert racing. And it's a bike focused thing, but it really encompasses everything, because it's really important that I take and I spend my time helping to, I think, navigate the future for the sport. It's like, it's just like, I feel like you guys are, you and your brother and Killian and your group is like, you guys are being the most progressive and most aggressive of, going out and having the media behind it and really showcasing desert racing at the top level. And so I'm really passionate about, helping to support that, and then helping to make, bike racing within that group, if I can help with helping the course, making great courses, working with you, working with the BLM, whatever we need to do to make a safe race, but make a fun race and make it so it's exciting, and everybody gets that experience, because that's what it's about. I mean, like you said, the entry into off-road racing is bike. It's a two-wheeler.
Yeah.
It's the cheapest form of off-road riding racing you can do. And so, that's where we get the hook in the young people, and then they have a lifetime of this adventure.
Yeah.
And, going from just going out to your family, going out the desert with your family and camping and riding, all the way up to winning the Mint 400. It's like you have this great goal of becoming, an off-road racer if you want to. You don't have to, but, that's how I wanted to be a champion. I wanted to win, but I feel very passionate about helping to support our industry and our culture to keep desert racing alive, keep off-road racing alive, and doing the best we can.
Sure. No, I mean, obviously I think it's important, and it's interesting because, like, I guess oftentimes I don't get the opportunity to articulate, like, what are our goals, right? And when I look at it, and you and I have lived through this era of bike racing really at its pinnacle. And so to me, it's about restoring that and going beyond it and making sure that it's sustainable, that it's connected to, the bigger off-road culture, and even motocross and supercross. It's like, that's our cousin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like all those people that are competing, all those people that are watching supercross and motocross, we want them out, with us as well. And we, even little simple things, like when I look at motocross and in supercross, I'm like, hey, cool, go have a career. If you're that bad of a dude that you can do that,
yeah,
props. But when you're done, come desert racing with us, because you're going to have a lot more fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the adventure of desert racing is unlike anything else, right? Because you have the elements. You are in the elements, and whether it's hot, it's cold, it's dusty, it's snowing, raining, whatever, it's like you have this long journey to get to the checkered flag, and you have to overcome all these different obstacles along the way to get there. It's not just a 10-minute moto or a 20-minute moto on a track or a stadium. I mean, and that's what builds our culture and our characters is, when you have hardships, which desert racing is hard, is like you have to overcome that. And the other part of it is like that other fellow competitor, he's going to be your first guy to help you, more or less. Like if you have a breakdown or you're injured or whatever. So it's like, that's never going to happen on a closed course track, on a short course, right?
No.
I mean, it's too short of a race. You have help close by, but this guy might be the only guy that comes along in a long time, to help out. So you have to have a different mentality, and it's a really unique sport, and it's really, it's U.S. born, it's American born.
Yeah,
this style of racing.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because a lot of people don't know that, Jean-Louis Schlescher, right, who started Dakar. He had come over and visited Sal Fish and slept on his floor and gone to the Baja 1000 and looked at it and went, okay, this is really cool, and then went back and created Dakar. So even Dakar was born from our, off-road racing culture. So they obviously, took it and they amplified it and they tweaked the format, which is really cool. But when you look at that and you're like, well, where is the root of everything? It's here. And so, yeah, it's interesting. And you think about how many bikes are sold here and compared to Europe, and, we are the market. So, I mean, that's the thing. And one of the reasons I reached out to you is like, we're sitting around talking about like, hey, how do we do this? How do we do this? So I'm like, man, I don't know. Let me call Johnny and figure it out. Right.
Yeah. So it's neat. And I'm glad you did. And cause it's a great time in my career because, have the ability and the knowledge and the wisdom. Well, some of the wisdom,
a lot.
I don't know everything at all and never claim to, but I know that I have some experience here and over 30 years of professionally, at the top level that, if I could share that knowledge and help the sport, that's a home run to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are, like a week out or 2 weeks out of heading to Dakar?
Yeah, we're a couple weeks out. I think most of the team will leave around Christmas Day, maybe the day after. We'll get over there a week ahead of time so the guys can get acclimated to the time, do some shakedown, and pick up all our vehicles out of the port. And then, then we're go on to the bivouac, and we're kind of in that bubble in Saudi. It's a little bit sketchy this year. Of course, there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the Middle East. So, we're Saudi's done a good job of keeping us in that bubble and keeping us safe and stuff. So I'm confident that we'll have a great Dakar, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys. I mean, especially with Skylar on now, now you can start playing a little bit more team, team action there. So
yeah, the team strategy, we actually have on Honda, we have 6 riders this year. So we got a full team. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's strong. We do have a new bike. And so we've been working really hard on that. I'm really excited about that. It's been, a lot of labor of love there for me. So it'll be great to see the results of that.
Nice. Well, good luck at Dakar. Thank you for spending the time with us. And I look forward to stacking another win for the Americans.
Yeah, my pleasure, Matt. And good luck at Parker. And, hopefully everything goes well for you guys there.
Right on. Thanks, Johnny.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Chase. Number 23. It's 2023. This championship's yours. Let's show these guys what's up.
Easy, boys. It's not over yet. Big dog still gotta eat.
Whatever you say, big dog. Seriously? These fools think I'm fried?
They know the deal.